You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, until all my fears are gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. From my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Your love runs through my veins. I've been born again into your family. Your blood runs through my veins. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. I am surrounded by the arms of the Father. I am surrounded by songs of deliverance. We've been liberated from our bondage, with the sons and the daughters. Let us sing our freedom. So I could stand and say, I am a child of God. Oh, we say, you split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears were drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and say, I am a child of God. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. 'Cause I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. Good afternoon, Crossover. Hope you're doing great today. I am here. I am not Pastor Love. I have way more hair than he does. But I am here with Blake, and we are going to talk about all things worship and what worship means during this time. Again, Pastor asked that we would just talk a little bit about what has been going on the last couple weeks as we've been leading worship to an empty room, but knowing that you all are there still worshiping has been very different. And so just wanted to take a little bit of time, talk about those differences, talk about how much we miss you all, but also talk about what it means for us to live lives in worship during this time. So if you didn't watch last week's video, you know that this is Blake Karen. He's our music director, and I am Parker Love. I am the worship pastor / a little bit of other things, but typically you'll see us on a Sunday morning leading the musical part of worship, and Blake has been with us for a couple months now, and so love doing ministry with him, love doing life with him. But yeah, so typically a normal Sunday is going to look a little bit different for us, where we show up, we run through with a full team of people. We normally have about 15 or so individuals who are all serving together in worship ministry, and it's a little different now because we show up and we do a test run through of everything that's been going on for the week. We run some songs, and then about 3 of us play the music, and about 6 of us are there in the room just watching what's going on. But I think it's been some of the coolest, most intimate times of worship I've been a part of. I don't know about you. What do you?
Yeah, it's, I think Daryl mentioned it maybe last video, but just those moments of being in the middle of a song and looking back and seeing Scooby or Mark Flannery back there just with their hands up, it's just it's very convicting in a moment when you might not be taking worship as serious sometimes, or it's easy to get distracted when you're not performing in front of people, but yeah, it's definitely an awesome time of worship when you can just see these guys that you're serving with every Sunday just truly worshiping, even when it's not a part of a normal church service. So yeah, it's been really cool.
Yeah, I think it's been cool too. Last week's video we talked a little bit just about the time that we've been spending together as a serving team, just hanging out. Just as soon as we're done with the video, we're talking about the day. We're just spending time thinking through what was talked about, what we sang about, and it's been really cool just to see that there's a common theme of us dwelling on the things that we've sung. And typically, in a normal Sunday morning, we're all so busy going and doing and checking off lists of packing up and tearing down that we don't get that time together. And so that's been super cool for me, is just hearing the hearts of guys like the Jordan Yoakleys, who does our live video, to hear what he got out of that day, or to hear a Tyler Neal talking to a Mark Flannery, so the guy who plays guitar and the guy who does the audio, just talking about the message of the song that we just sang. It's been really cool for me, just hanging out and talking, and I think that just brings us back to a place of fellowship is really a core foundation pillar of what it means to truly be the church and what it truly means to worship. Is pretty cool.
I think it's been almost unfair in a way for us that we get to have such a time of being with other people on Sunday mornings. Because I talked to some people from home in Raleigh, and I tell them my life really hasn't changed during this time, because I'm still doing stuff for church on Sundays and the weekends, but yeah, it's just been awesome to be able to just keep in touch with these guys every week and just see what their life's been like. And I think it's been a really cool time of growth for our team that we might not have had we not gone through this stay-at-home stuff. and the fact that we are able to just communicate with each other and just do life together in a way that we wouldn't normally get to on a Sunday is really cool. And I've really gotten to know these guys even better, probably because of this. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, and I think something that's really cool that we've mentioned a couple times, but you all are not able to see sitting at home or driving or whatever you're doing. Hopefully you're not driving and watching the live service, but it's been really, really cool and very interesting just to experience his presence when it's just a couple of us. Now, we've experienced his presence and worshiping collectively as a body, and we've experienced those times where it's just been very great, very moving, very powerful. But throughout this whole time, it's been a totally different experience for me, at least, because I've been leading worship for years and years and years and years, but this is the first time where I've been leading worship consistently in an empty room. And so it's been a very, very cool time of just intimate, torn down, just between us and the Father, and just really experiencing his presence, and hoping that you're understanding or that you're experiencing that as well has been, there's been a good bit of faith. I think that for me, when we're introducing a brand new song and wondering, are they singing with this? Do they hate this song? Do they love this song? But realizing that it's not about that, it's, what are we singing about? King of Glory was a new song, and just singing that even throughout this whole season, regardless of what you've been experiencing, what you're feeling, he is still a king worthy to receive glory. And so it's just been an exercise in faith for me as a worship leader. It's been an exercise in faith just as a church leader, to just trust that the same thing the Spirit is doing here in this place, he's doing in your homes. And so I think that's been a huge prayer of ours that we've been praying over our church congregation, that his presence would just block out distractions, that he would dwell in your homes, that he would just be there at the very least for an hour and a half on a Sunday morning, but hopefully throughout the whole week. But what have you been experiencing just as we've been leading to an empty room?
Yeah, when you mentioned that, the first thing I thought of was the man that showed up the first 2 Sundays that we were doing that, and it probably was going to be weird doing it to performing for an empty room. But when there's one guy and he's sitting off to the left, and you're just like, okay, do I pay attention to the camera? Do I look at him? What's going on? It's definitely an interesting experience. But one thing I'm reminded of is just like when we had to do Easter like this, all I could think about was just like how Easter Sunday is such a big Sunday for people normally, and it's usually a big spectacle at a church, maybe a play, maybe some type of concert with the choir or whatever it is, and nobody was able to do that this year. And just thinking about like, is Easter still as good because we can't do all this stuff to glorify God? But I just couldn't help but think, just like, it's almost like God was saying, like, it's just me this time. And I don't know, it's just been a cool time to think about, like, why do we really do this? Why do you guys really tune in? Why do you come to church? Why do you watch the live stream? Are you there to listen? Are you there to learn? Are we there because we're trying to show off in front of 200 people? Or are we there because we're using our gifts every Sunday? So it's just been a cool time. Like, I'm sure there's people that have been a part of Crossover that haven't been tuning in as much as they would be if they were coming to church every Sunday. But I know there's a lot of people that are probably more involved and more purposeful in listening and tuning in, and maybe it's a little bit easier for them. But whether it's a time of pruning for those of us that are really seeking God in this time, God's using it, whether it's that type, that season for us or whatever it is. I think it's been a cool time of growth, even though we've had to do things very differently and just in uncharted territory.
Absolutely. I think kind of what you were getting at there for a second has been something that I've seen a lot of people posting about, which is re-embracing or revaluing the ways of old. And when I say ways of old, I mean not technology. Like I'm having friends who are my age, even younger, who are learning how to garden, who are learning how to do much with little, ways of old, if you will. But I think we as a church have kind of started looking at that and saying, do we need the hype and the frills and the experiences and all these things to truly have church? And for me, it's been super refreshing. Yes, at times it can be very tiring and just saying, man, I want to get back to people here celebrating Jesus with the body. But it's also been so good to know that Jesus is still glorified. Jesus is still fully worshiped, even when we're not putting all the technology, all of the excess, all of this stuff. Because, there for a while, it really felt like to me that not as Crossover, but as the Church of America, we were really becoming gluttons, if I can say that, just to the hype of Jesus. And, I had a professor one time that talked about we can totally miss the call of Jesus in pursuit of our call to Jesus. And he was essentially just saying, don't get caught up in serving Jesus to the point that you're not serving him anymore. And I think this time for all of us, whether you have been attending Crossover for years and years and years, and you serve in every aspect of life, and you're here 7 out of every single day of the week, whatever. But this is a time for us to really just get back to why are we here? And that's what you were just saying is, why do we show up at church? Why do we go to a life group? Why are we a part of a small group? Why do we want to be serving at all? And hopefully during this time, you are reevaluating, man, why do I go to church? And hopefully it's a good reason. But, it's when we take away all the things that we've known, all of the tradition, all of the routine, and get down to the basics, man, it is us showing up to bring God glory. We don't sing songs to entertain. We don't sing songs because they're cool or they're fun. We sing songs because they are singing truths about a God who is so worthy to be praised. We don't open the scripture because it's entertaining for Pastor Daryl to talk to us for 45 minutes or it's a checklist item. It's good for us to be growing spiritually as a body. But something I wanted to ask you is, and I'll answer it rhetorically in a second, but what is kind of been the theme that you've seen as we've been through worship? Because there's been kind of an underlining theme, I think, in the songs that we've done, the new songs that we've introduced, and even the songs that I'm seeing other churches play and just leading. Or do you see a theme at all?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I haven't like sat down and really thought about it, but I know like just the song Always, how that kind of came out of nowhere for us. I don't think we had planned on going back to it at all, but just like knowing that God is faithful through these times. I know there's like the song Here Again, we're going to do it this Sunday. Just being in this place where we need God. We have no hope other than Jesus in these times. And I don't know, I would say God's faithfulness is a theme that I can think of.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I would say definitely the same. I would say there's a big theme of like within the vein of God's faithfulness, that he's true to his promises. That
sure.
When we read in his word that he says, I'm never going to leave you, I'm never going to forsake you, he's never going to go back on that promise. And that is so good for us, because we can say all day, Jesus is faithful, God is faithful, but when life really starts to suck, when life really starts to put the pressure on us, when we start getting, and some of you may be watching this video not knowing how you're going to be making certain payments or how certain things are going to be taken care of, it might be a little bit more difficult for us to say that God's faithful. But for us to look at his word and say that every single one of his promises are always going to come to be true is a whole nother step. So I would say I'm seeing that kind of theme coming out. I'm seeing another theme, which is just his love. Sorry, for a second I forgot where I was going. But his love, just talking about, it's not so much his love that we've done anything to deserve, or we can't buy his love. We are such transactional beings where we always have to give to get or get to give. And Jesus doesn't work like that, right? There's nothing that we could do. So when we sing Your Love Never Fails, when we sing things like even 10,000 Reasons is talking about his love. But a couple weeks ago we sang How He Loves, and we've been in the series 3:16, just talking about John 3:16, which most of you know. And it's a huge Bible verse, very simple. Most children learn that as their first Bible verse, but yet it is so hugely complex that I think we oftentimes miss it. And so when we really start, as we've been, really start peeling back the layers of what John 3:16 means for us as believers, man, it's been just so cool to think about. His love for us is so big, even when it feels like we're sitting stagnant. Like, he is still unconditionally, uncontrollably loving us. So that one's been a cool one for me. But wanted to ask you kind of what you feel that God's been doing maybe in your life, what he's been saying to you, what he's been teaching you through this time. Maybe not just as a worship leader, but as a husband, as a dude who likes life. Whatever God's been teaching you.
Yeah, well, I think it's been mentioned a couple times, but Rain and I are actually closing on our house in like 3 days, Monday the 18th. And so it's definitely been an interesting time of kind of not knowing what the future holds. You know, we decide that we're going to put our house on the market, and like 2 days later they shut everything down, and then are we allowed to have showings? And just, I mean, I feel like most people understand the craziness of selling a home, but I mean, it's definitely been like on top of this virus and everything that's come with it, everything shutting down. It's definitely been like on top of that, selling a house and not really having a clear plan for what the future holds, just knowing that we're supposed to be in High Point, has definitely caused Rain and I to rely on God more. And sometimes it's convicting saying that, because we should be relying on God even when it's easy. Yeah. But I think the Lord uses those times for us to come back to him. And, accepting this job and Rain and I moving to High Point is it's that classic pick up everything and move somewhere else that, her and I never thought we'd be doing. I was just telling one of my friends in Raleigh that he had always talked about, we're going to move here, we're going to move an hour away here, we're going to move here, and he ended up staying. And now the guy who was like, don't move away, I'm staying here, is the guy moving away. So I don't know, it's just been an interesting time of learning to trust the Lord in things that you have no control over. And it's hard to do that as humans. We want control over everything, and we find comfort in knowing what's what's happening, how it's happening. And so I think it's probably been a lesson a lot of people have learned through this pandemic, but even more so us doing all this, moving to another city in the middle of all this. So definitely been something we've been learning.
Absolutely, man. And how would you encourage people watching today, be it to worship, be it to face life's unknowns, understanding his faithfulness through his promises, whatever that would be? How would you encourage people today?
Yeah. First, I would say there is hope. We will meet back here in this building again together. I think Parker was joking last Sunday. We had just like 2 extra people part of our prayer time before the service. And Parker said, I think church is going to last like 6 hours the first time we're here together, which maybe it will. It would be. We can't wait. I mean, we're excited to meet with you guys again. But I would just say, even when you don't want to, wake up Sunday mornings, be a part of the service, ask God to show you something new. And like I said, there's hope in Jesus. There's hope in this, what's going on right now is not going to last forever, but we all pray that we'll be able to meet together soon, and the Lord will be glorified, whether it's in the living room or in the sanctuary.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of you have questions of when we are meeting and what's going on. I promise you, we are meeting as a leadership team with our elders and our staff, and we're discussing on a weekly basis what's going on in the life of our community, what's best for our church, what's best for those based upon new things that are coming out on a weekly basis. So I promise that as soon as we know what's going on, we will let everyone know. But it's true that from the beginning of this, what Blake was saying, that before you were born, God knew that in 2020 this was going to happen. And long after you're gone, he knew what his plan was, even if we still don't. But I think the most important thing that we can look at through this whole time is not only what do we do with our time, but how do we respond to the things around us. You know, like Blake's saying, it's not fun necessarily to get up early or to get up at all to watch church when you would much rather be in the room full of people. But I think the question that will be asked in about 15, 20 years when we're explaining it to children or grandchildren or great-grandchildren, when they ask what happened in 2020, it's we can either say, oh, it was a miserable time, or we can look back at this and say, man, God was really faithful. These are the things that he worked out in my life. He helped me overcome temptations. He helped me rein in my self-control. He gave me a new respect and a newfound peace and joy and love. And so don't waste this opportunity. As hard as it may seem today, don't waste this opportunity just to dwell in his presence on a deeper level. I do want to pray, and then I hope that you all have a great rest of your day. God, we are so thankful just for your presence that is ever present. God, we thank you that you're a God who is not just a faithful God. You're a God who makes promises and never goes back on those promises. We know that you are a true and loving God, a God who is walking with us through this whole thing. And so, Father, I pray that for the person who has been struggling through these last couple weeks or these last couple months, God, that you would so just dwell with them right now, God, that they would know that you are true, that you are present. God, I pray for the person who feels like they're on the mountaintop. God, I pray that you would today impress on them people that they can go and encourage. Lord, that we as a church may understand on a deeper level what it means to be a church, not a building, but a people who are passionately following after you. God, we love you. We worship you. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Church, as I say every week, go out, be the church. Stay inside, be the church. Love people like Jesus loves you, and the world will be a better place for it. We'll see you someday.